Hi, Acadiana. I'm Meteorologist Dave Baker with a bit of an update here on Tropical Storm Milton, forming as a tropical depression earlier this morning and is now a tropical storm, and it is expected to be a pretty strong hurricane. So we'll just go through it real quick. On this Saturday afternoon, we've got the radar starting to pick up on some of this rainfall that's wrapping around Milton, as it's just off the Mexican coast, but it is within range of the Brownsville radar, and you can see that there is a bit of a circulation right about in there, and it's probably going to sit here for the next 24 hours, maybe 36, and then it's going to start to make its way off toward the east, and eventually we are going to be seeing a bigger trough that's going to dig across much of the northwestern Gulf Coast. That's going to be sending a front into our area on Monday and should kick this a lot faster off toward the east. But there's a look at the afternoon satellite imagery, and you can see we're getting that low-level circulation a little better organized. The wind shear there is relatively light, so there's some pretty decent atmospheric conditions and some warmer waters as well. And there's the floater satellite, again a little bit of a closer view of the tropical system. And Florida, once again, is going to be under the gun. For us, I think the offshore waters are going to be a bit more on the rough side. We'll probably get some better breezes here today and tomorrow, but the big stuff, unfortunately, is going to be heading toward Florida. And at this point, it looks like it's going to be hitting the west coast of Florida that was just recently hit with Hurricane Helene. And most of the area that's within that cone there goes up to from the Big Bend area, which, of course, took the brunt of Hurricane Helene at landfall, and then much of the west coast of Florida taking on storm surge because of the direction of movement of Helene. So much of these folks that are here along the peninsula of Florida are still hurricane wary because of Hurricane Helene just a little over a week ago. So the forecast models, for the most part, are pretty consistent on the track, and unfortunately that's going to put it somewhere on the central west coast of Florida. Tampa seems to be in the crosshairs. There's a few of them that kind of slide a little bit farther to the south toward Fort Myers, and a few that curve a little bit farther toward the north. Of course, a direct hit just maybe to the north of Tampa would be something devastating because of the storm surge, and they've already had some decent storm surge just within the last week and a half. And you can see the category or the intensity models here going out about 4 days. Most of them are category 2 or higher. The official National Hurricane Center showing that it's going to be a category 3 hurricane at landfall. But there are a few models that take it even stronger to category 4. And as we talked in Let's Talk Tropics for most of the week, we know that this is going to cause some rougher winds and seas, and there's a very warm water temperatures there. But it's that tropical cyclone heat potential was the thing that I'm the most concerned about, because even though the tropical system is developing here, the forecast track is going to be taking it over some high heat potential. And like what we saw with Hurricane Helene, there's a possibility, if you get the right atmospheric conditions and the right fuel, you can get some rapid intensification, and that is what the worry is. And the shear map right now is showing a fairly low wind shear environment, and even over the next couple of days this is going to be bending a little bit more like that and allowing the lighter amounts of wind shear to kind of be within that cone there. So the entire time that this system starts to make its way over toward Florida, it's probably going to be in a fairly low wind shear environment. So you have that combined with the high heat content, you can get a significant hurricane. So real quick look at some of the models. The HWRF is the hurricane-specific model, pretty much making a beeline there off toward the western Florida coast. It does bring it up to major hurricane status at landfall wind speeds at about 100 knots, which is 115 on the mile-per-hour scale. So that would be a major hurricane as it moved there. And it looks like the timing on this brings it in sometime about Wednesday evening. HAF's model is just a little bit faster, making its way pretty similar to the earlier one, maybe just to the north of Tampa, which would of course be horrible with the storm surge pulling its way all the way into Tampa Bay. So that would be flooding a large area there, which is a big time worry when you get hurricanes coming in. But this one also kind of hovering right around 100 knots, maybe 95 to 100 knots. So that's a borderline category 2, category 3 hurricane. GFS also taking the hurricane, moving across and making a landfall just north of Tampa with some rapid intensification there northeast of the Yucatan Peninsula. And it also has a landfall at 100 knots, but this time a little faster, looking more toward Wednesday afternoon. And the Euro model, very similar to the other models too, moving it off toward the east-northeast. Landfall for this particular one is a little bit farther toward the north there. Again, right just north of Tampa. There's going to be some movement on the final landfall, of course, over the next several days. But some of the final solutions here are taking this up into the 75 to 80 knots. So you're talking about a Category 1 hurricane according to the latest Euro model. Of course, tropical weather outlook has Milton in the Gulf. We still have Hurricane Kirk, which is a Category 3 over the central part of the Atlantic, and Hurricane Leslie, which is a Category 1 in the southern part of the Atlantic. And then over near the Cape Verde Islands, there's still a chance that we could see some development here over the next couple of days. Next advisory coming down on Milton will be at 10 o'clock later on tonight. I'll post those on my social media pages, and if you want to follow those on Facebook and X, there are the handles. Of course, like this video, subscribe to my channel, and turn on those notifications. I'm meteorologist Dave Baker on this Saturday afternoon. I'll keep you updated on social media and maybe talk to you again tomorrow.